In this video, we're going to focus on naming cycloalkanes. So let's begin with this one. Here we have a 3-carbon cycloalkane. You can see the 3 carbons at the edges. And we know that 3 carbons is associated with the name propane for an alkane. So this is called cyclopropane. Anytime you have a ring of carbon atoms, you need to add the prefix cyclo. So with that in mind, what is the name of this particular cycloalkane? So here we have 4 carbons, and 4 carbons is associated with butane, so this is called cyclobutane. Now there's 2 other common shapes that you need to be familiar with. This is called cyclopentane, since it's a ring with 5 carbons. And the one that looks like a hexagon, this is known as cyclohexane. Now go ahead and take a minute and draw cycloheptane and cyclooctane. So this is how you draw cycloheptane. You can start by putting 2 lines. That's cycloheptane. And for cyclooctane, this is probably the most easiest way to draw it. It has 8 sides, and that's how you draw cyclooctane. Now let's say if we have a 6-carbon ring with 2 carbons outside of it. What is the name of this particular cycloalkane? How can we name it? So as a substituent, this group is known as an ethyl group, since it contains 2 carbons. Keep in mind, for 1 carbon, it's associated with the word methane. As a substituent, it's known as methyl. Ethane is 2 carbons, propane 3, butane 4, pentane 5, hexane 6, heptane is for 7, octane is associated with 8, nonane 9, decane 10. So make sure you know the first 10 names of the common alkanes. The name for this compound is called ethyl cyclohexane. You just got to put these 2 together. And since you only have 1 substituent, you don't have to say 1 ethyl cyclohexane because it's automatically on carbon 1. You need at least 2 substituents to begin putting numbers on it. What about this one? How can we name this particular alkane? So this is a methyl group, since it only has 1 carbon, and here we have an ethyl group. Now when you have multiple groups, you want to put it in alphabetical order. E comes before M, so we want to put ethyl first before methyl, and if possible, you want to number it in increasing order. So we're going to assign ethyl carbon 1, and carbon 2 is going to be associated with methyl. We have 5 carbons in a ring, so we know it's a cyclopentane ring. So this is going to be called 1 ethyl dash 2 dash methyl cyclopentane. You will always need a dash to separate a number and a letter. And if you have 2 numbers, you can separate them by a comma. Try this one. Go ahead and name this particular compound. By the way, for each of these examples, feel free to pause the video as you work on it. So there's 4 carbon atoms in the ring, so the parent name is called cyclobutane, and we have a methyl on carbon 1 and on carbon 3. So this is going to be called 1, 3, use a comma to separate the numbers, dash dimethyl, since we have 2 methyl substituents, cyclobutane. So that's the name for this particular compound. Let's move on to our next example. go ahead and name this compound. So we need to identify the longest chain. The longest chain is not the ring. It is the straight chain that we see here. The ring has 6 carbons, but the chain above has 7. So that's going to be the parent name, which is associated with the word heptane. So what do we call this as a substituent? We know the parent name for a 6-carbon ring is cyclohexane, but as a substituent it's called cyclohexyl with a YL. So the name for this compound is 3-cyclohexyl heptane. What is the name of that compound? How can we name it? So we have a wedge and a dash. Because one chlorine atom is in the front and the other is in the back, this is the trans isomer. And we have a chlorine atom on carbon 1 and 2. And there's 6 carbon atoms in total in the ring. So we have a cyclohexane ring. So this is going to be called trans 1,2-dichloro cyclohexane. So if that's the case, how can we name this particular compound? Since both bromine atoms are on the wedge, we have the cis isomer. And we have a total of 5 carbons in a ring. So this is going to be called cis 1,2-dibromo cyclopentane. Now what about this one? Go ahead and name this particular cycloalkane. So we have a bromine group, a bromo group on carbon 1, and an ethyl group on carbon 3. Now because B comes before E, we want to put the 1 with the B. We want to say 1 bromo, 3 ethyl, as opposed to 1 ethyl, 3 bromo. We need to alphabetize it, and if possible, put it in increasing order. So to name it, it's going to be 1 bromo dash 3 ethyl cyclohexane. So not only were we able to put it in alphabetical order, but we are able to put the numbers in increasing order, which is preferable. Now let's move on to bicyclic compounds. So let's say if we have a bicyclic compound that is a compound with 2 rings, if it looks like that, how can we name it? Now the first thing you need to be able to do is identify the bridgehead carbons, which are here. Now how many carbons are between the bridgehead carbons on the left side? Notice that we only have 2. On the right side, there's only 2 carbons here. And on top, between the 2 bridgehead carbons, there's only 1. So to name it, it's going to be called a bicyclo in descendant order 2, 2, 1. And then add the total number of carbons that we have, which is going to be the sum of these 3 numbers plus the 2 bridgehead carbons, which is 7. So bicyclo 2,2,1 heptane. Let's try another example. Go ahead and name this one. So on the left side, there are 2 carbons. On the right side, we have 3, and on top we have 1. So to name it, it's going to be bicyclo 3, 2, 1 in descending order. 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6, and if you add the 2 bridgehead carbons, that's 8. And 8 is associated with octane, since we have a total of 8 carbons. So it's bicyclo 321 octane. As you can see, it's not very difficult to name bicyclic compounds, but let's try one final example. Go ahead and name this one. Notice that on the left side, we have 2 carbons. We have 2 on the right. And in the top portion, between the 2 bridgehead carbons, we have 2 as well. So this is going to be called bicyclo 222 octane.